My name is Lyle Murphy, the founder of the Alternative to Med Center, where we help people many times help strategize getting off of psychiatric medications. And today we're going to be talking about the truth about Seroquel. First question, what is Seroquel for? The prescribers prescribe it for schizophrenia, for schizoaffective, for bipolar, for major depressive disorder, and off-label it can be prescribed for a lot of other things as well. Basically, Seroquel is on the side of the teeter-totter that is trying to push down the excitatory aspect of your nervous system so that you can sleep, so that you can be less manic, so that you can be less psychotic. And sometimes it's reasonably effective at that. Next question. What are the worsening symptoms of Seroquel? Assuming what this question means is what are the concerning side effects of Seroquel? Not exactly sure what how this question was meant, but anyway, so movement problems. The tardive dyskinesia is the big problem. Tremors can be like when you're having uncontrollable tremors, might be a precursor to bigger neurological problems that are side affecting. And with any drug, if the symptoms that you were taking that drug for just suddenly got worse, like your sleep got worse, like you took it because you wanted to get more sleep and now you're not sleeping at all, or you took it because you were having some irritability and your irritability got worse, right? But by and large, the things that are the most impacted usually that people don't think of, they call them side effects of the medication that really are not side effects. They're still effects of the medication, right? But the normative effects that people are not thinking are effects of the medication of Seroquel are going to involve sexual function, digestive function, usually all of the autonomic things, and that is consistent with all the medications, right? All the medications are generally going to affect something in there. So next question, how do you taper off of Seroquel? Okay, so tapering off of Seroquel is like any antipsychotic, you are going to want to do it slowly, especially if you've been on it for a long time. Like if you have been on Seroquel for 5 years and you've been at 200, 300 milligrams or above, then you're going to want to come down off of it slowly. If you've been on 50 milligrams a night for the last 3 years and you are wanting to come off of it, you're probably not going to go psychotic from coming off of that little amount, but your sleep might be impacted from that amount. You might have to do that sort of slowly, but generally you can bridge in other things that are going to make that process a bit easier, and you don't have to necessarily worry about going to the hospital thing unless you're just so determined, I'm going to get through this, that you go 3 or 4 days without sleeping because you went too fast with it. But generally, if let me just pick a scenario. Let's say that you were put on Seroquel because you had some psychotic features or manic features, and those manic features were a hospitalizing event, so they put you on 600 milligrams of Seroquel, and currently now you're taking like 300. You've been operating in some sort of capacity, a functional way, and you want to try to get off of that level. I would try coming down 300, maybe 50 milligrams at most. Like you may want to do 25 milligrams. Just do an entry cut. Do something that is probably not going to derail you first and see how that goes. And then if that's going well, you just keep tapering slowly. There are a lot of other things that are on our website about how to use alternative medicines such as vitamin C, such as lithium orotate, such as niacin, tryptophan, things like that, in order to help make this situation even possible for many of those folks. And I would encourage that you probably find us under Seroquel Alternatives. If you do a Google search, look for Alternative to Med Center there and read that page. That can probably tell you. There's probably a video that goes with it that can tell you about the adjunctive nutraceutical things that you can do to help with your tapering. How long does it take for Seroquel side effects to go away? I'm assuming that you're asking, when you first start taking Seroquel, how long does it take for those initial side effects to go away? If you're having a serious side effect, first off, like the first entry question is, okay, I'm having a serious side effect. I'm having a rash, or I'm having like a suicidal ideation that I can't control. That is a fly back to your doctor or get something to deal with that right now. If it's like the nausea, the headaches, the vomiting, the drowsiness, you're talking about a sedating medication, right? So you're gonna feel like tired. You probably don't want to be driving the first time you try to take this medication. Falling asleep, you're feeling nauseous, like those sorts of headaches, those things are probably going to improve within the first week or two. If they're not, then of course, you're going back to your prescriber to have them adjust the medication, Yeah, okay, next question. Why do I feel weird after taking Seroquel? Because it's a weird drug. I mean, it is a strong sedative. So generally, people are feeling like their balance is off, like things are kind of like your perception. You might whoa. Like all of those things that the neurochemicals are regulating are different now. You know what I mean? Like in order for, when I touch myself like that, there's receptors called nociceptors that actually transmit pain at a certain level, and they transmit soft touch at a different level. And it really matters on how hard I'm pressing and how sharp I'm pressing. All that's regulated by neurotransmitters, right? And if I scramble all that, right, this might hurt, or maybe this doesn't hurt. You know what I mean? Like you're altering neurochemicals. You're altering the interface between how our spirit is transposing itself on the physical, if that makes sense. You're talking about our experience of the physical is oftentimes expressed to whatever we consider us to be from a neurochemical medium. And when you're altering that neurochemical medium, you're often altering the musical output of what we're actually hearing, seeing, and feeling. And you may adjust, you most likely will adjust to it. The body is very neuroadaptive, and again, of course, I'm not the big cheerleader of medications and all. I am trying to answer the question in a way, none of these things, I want people who are taking medications to feel disenfranchised, like, oh, that's bad, It really is, if life works better on medications, then medications. If life is not working on medications, then let's figure out some other strategy. And usually people are asking me, what's the other strategy? You know what I mean? So if it feels like I have a bent, it's because I see strategies that most people don't see, including most times, I'm going to be just very honest with this, I have interviewed a lot of psychiatrists, I've talked to a lot of psychiatrists, I have employed psychiatrists, I've gone through resume stacks like this, the whole swipe to the left thing, that's me with a stack of resumes for psychiatrists, because the sleepers are just, there's a lot of psychiatrists that don't know much about the medications they're prescribing, or they know about it in a way that is really geared towards the symptom that they've diagnosed. There's this list of medications they can take, but they really can't hang with, like, what is that medication doing on a physiological level? How is it affecting your reward in life? How is it affecting your digestion? Why is it affecting your digestion? What are the actual things that are very specific to why this medication is doing that? Oftentimes you find somebody that doesn't know that. So I'm usually in the camp of, that other voice. I'm not even say the voice of reason, just that other voice that is probably different than what other people are hearing. All right. Next question. Does Seroquel withdrawal cause psychosis? Yes. I mean, yes. Not for everybody, but when someone, this is like I don't know what you call those, the fables, where you have this Little Red Riding Hood went out and there was this big wolf. And so the fable of the narrative that Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down, hit his crown, ended up in a psychiatrist's office, and then he was on this medication ever after, because when he tried to come back down the hill, but he didn't step down the hill, he stepped off the cliff, he splatted, and the medication that they gave him, he wouldn't have done that if he just stayed on the medication, something like that, right? So we watch these folks come off the medication and then they go psychotic. It's because they came off of it too fast, right? It's not always because that's their baseline, but that's where they've gotten to. The new norm for them is being medicated. And when you take away a medication that was holding back dopamine, a reward neurochemical that if you don't have enough of, you don't have any motivation to go do anything in the world, if you have too much of, everything's hitting you so fast that, it's like smoking a big bowl of methamphetamine or whatever, people associated the Tony Montana, the pile of cocaine on the desk, getting shot, and he's still not getting hurt kind of thing, right? You become almost impenetrable, but you cray too, you know what I mean? Too much dopamine is cray, and not enough dopamine is, I don't feel like doing anything in this world, check me the hell out, right? When you're coming off of when you're coming off of Seroquel, basically what's happening is all of a sudden you get this flood of dopamine and everything feels great. And you go psychotic, and then they say, you need your medication. Because you need your medication because this is what you are. And then you get maybe conditioned to believe that you're broken, when it really just was a withdrawal phenomenon. Or it could have been just a withdrawal phenomenon. It's one of the rules is if it works some of the time, it ain't broken. If a person's all the time symptomatic and they're hearing voices and they're responding to internal stimuli for a decade and there's really not a relief or a moment in there that's noticeable, whoa, they were high functioning, then it's a very, very vastly different situation than train wreck mixed with high functioning, mixed with next train wreck. This situation has a much better prognosis than this one, let's say. And usually, if it's this one and people are coming off medications and they totally go batshit again, then they actually could be without the medications if they did it in a more strategic way. Strangely, the people you think that are getting fixed the most by the medication are typically the people that would be okay without the medication if they just stopped smoking pot, if they just stopped drinking too much coffee, if they just improved their diet, those other things. Because if you really have organic brain damage, right, you really have a part of your brain that's not working, it's not going to suddenly start working because you gave somebody medication. It's just not how it works. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Next question. Can coming off Seroquel make you sick? Yes. Almost any medication is going to affect your digestive system. What goes on in here, right? What goes on in your head, the neurochemicals that make things go up in your gut make things go down. And if you do it the opposite, they go like that. So if you come off the medication, right, whatever's happening in your gut suddenly gets inverted and you go like that, right? So if you're coming, so basically Seroquel could cause you to be nauseous, could cause you to be where you didn't have any sex drive before, suddenly you have a sex drive. It could cause vomiting, it could cause insomnia coming off the medication. So all the things that remain like this, all of a sudden you go the other direction, including making you physically ill, like throwing up kind of ill. You could eat a ton when you're on Seroquel, but then all of a sudden you look at food and you throw up. Yeah, that's not uncommon. It's part of the withdrawal process. Next question. How long does Seroquel withdrawal insomnia last? Okay, hopefully, again, this depends on who you are, but the half-life of Seroquel is around 3 to 5 days, to get enough of it out of your system where you're not being affected so much by the medication anymore, and but that's not necessarily how long it takes the organism itself, you or I, to be able to adapt to something completely different than what the medication was doing. So if, let's say you are a person who would sleep just fine-ish if you were not having this medication, then you come off the medication and within a couple of weeks, you should be back to your baseline. Even if you're taking a medication cut, let's say you're going from 150 milligrams of Seroquel down to 100, and then you have this upset and you're sleeping, 2 weeks later you should see that rebound depending on how long you've been taking the medication. Now, to the other extreme, right? If you're neurotoxic and you have a excitotoxin in your nervous system, such as mercury from your fillings in your teeth, or the organophosphates from all of the pesticide-laden food that you were eating, or all the MSG that you're still eating, right? Or all the aspartame in your artificially sweetened sodas. And this neurotoxin is increasing the speed of the ball that the pitcher called your nervous system is throwing at the receptor, and you try to thin that glove down, and you're still having a 100-mile-an-hour fastball being pitched, then that insomnia could last, and it could last, and it could last, and it could last, and it's going to last as you take away the medication. It's not really a part of medication withdrawal at all. It's part of this whole other environmental poisoning profile that's causing your nervous system to not be able to find homeostasis and regulate itself. And there's sort of a set of symptomatology that goes along with that type of persona. They come down off the medication, they get to a certain level, they can't get past that level, and they're symptomatic all the time after that. Like, it's just a constant set of symptomatology that's not going away after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Basically, they're hitting that neurotoxic profile. And for those folks, the most compassionate thing might be to go up to wherever they felt stable enough on the medication, hold out there, and figure out ways to unpoison themselves enough to get their nervous system to be able to be medication-free in the first place, if that makes sense. Next question, what does quetiapine withdrawal feel like? For those of you who don't know, quetiapine is another name for Seroquel. It's a generic name, and I'm just saying if we answer this question one of the other places here. So what does Seroquel quetiapine withdrawal feel like? It feels like, generally speaking, from a mental perspective, you get excitatory response. You get not sleeping well, irritability, and maybe being borderline hostile, getting ruminating thoughts that you can't make go away. And in the mental capacity, the real red flags are you cannot remember the last time you ate. If you can't remember the last time you ate, you better go eat something, because when you're bridging on psychosis, you stop sleeping, you stop eating, and you get, you're launching up into people with emotional charge, and you're not able to get redirected. Like, no, it has to be this way. And the person's like, man, calm down, and you ain't calming down, and you can't calm yourself down, and all that. That's probably whoopsie moments, and you probably need to reinstate enough of the medication to control those symptoms. And that might actually be more medication than you were taking before you started the withdrawal. Like, let's say you started at 300 and you got yourself down to 100 and you try to go to 75 and you're having that happen, right? You may have to shoot back up to 200 just to get yourself to sleep. Then when you wake up, you can go back to 100 and go at it a different way, going from 100 down to 75. And, it's kind of like if you're on the road and, you've got a logging truck and you're driving down this weedy, maybe icy path with switchbacks and everything, and you're a good driver, right? You have the skills to be a driver, and I wouldn't want to be trying to drive a truck. I don't know how to drive one, but let's say you're one of those good drivers, and all of a sudden you're coming up on a corner, and the inertia is getting to be too much. You're not going to just do this wait and see thing. Like, well, maybe just step on the brakes a little bit and hope that it doesn't. You're gonna do something to stop that inertia, and make sure you position the vehicle well enough to get off the road and kind of stair step it back into the right line. And that's kind of the same thing with this medication. You don't want to play around with if I just press on the brakes a little bit, am I gonna make it not have to go to the hospital? No. Just step on the dang brakes. If you get in that situation where you haven't slept in a couple of days and you don't look like you're slowing down anytime soon, you probably want to reinstate, get to sleep, wake up, start over, punt the ball again after you've had a period of stability, and be okay with that. All right, next question. What is the antidote for quetiapine? And I see a question right after that is, what is the antidote for Seroquel? Okay, antidote. Antidote's like isn't that one of those things you take like if you got bitten by a snake? And you take the antidote or the anti-venom or whatever. So antidote, why are you looking to have me answer here? The fundamental opposite of it would be, so this is a drug that holds back dopamine. It holds back this reward neurochemical that helps you get excited about a career path or a member of someone to have intimacy with, a job well done, like praise from your parents or from your community or whatever. These are all sort of like dopamine-driven functions. In a nutshell, the reward's out there somewhere, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get it. It's not something you're feeling inside. It's something you're coursing care to on the outside, you know? And so the antidote to that would be something that instead of restricting that dopamine, so you are not looking for reward everywhere that's like you're blocking dopamine with this drug, right? The opposite of that would be something that's shooting a bunch of dopamine at your nervous system. That would be crystal meth would be probably the closest analog to the exact opposite of what Seroquel is doing, you know? Strangely enough, if you're coming off of Seroquel and you're doing it too fast, it might feel like, crystal meth. For those people coming off crystal meth, the lack of reward that they are experiencing in those moments might be very analogous to what it's like to take an antipsychotic. Is that okay? So, but I don't suggest that you do things like that as an antidote to taking your medication. I'm afraid that could be misconstrued. Another way to look at this question would be, what would be similar to that, that's not necessarily a drug, would be another way to look at this question. And there's not really something in the nutraceutical world that's going to be similar to an antipsychotic, the potency of an antipsychotic. So, it just doesn't exist. It's kind of like finding something in the natural world that's like a train. I mean, I guess a volcano is or something, but a train is a train is a train. You see a train coming at you, you probably don't want to dig your heels in and try to challenge it. There's nothing in the natural world that can deal with the inertia of a train. And then I guess a third way to answer this question would be like if I took a Seroquel and I didn't know that I took a Seroquel. Let's say I got dosed at a party or something, and somebody was doing random drug testing, and they just said, "Here, take the purple one," and I found out later it was a Seroquel. A coffee, letting them go lay down, like maybe just roll with it because they're probably going to want to go to sleep anyway. I wish I knew exactly where the question was coming from, what the spirit of it was, but hopefully I got there with that. And the next question is, how can I wean myself off of Seroquel? Just do it. I know this is very, very, very difficult for a patient to trust themselves because we get these people that we've put on a pedestal. We've considered that they're at a higher. There's this higher pedestal that they live on. There's this power differential between me and this godlike person, and wow. And most times it couldn't be farther from the truth. It's really, really the opposite way. For me, if I'm doing my inquiry well, here's the person, here's me. I don't know anything about their life. I have to discover that. They're the authority. I'm just like trying to figure out what's true for them. And then I hear what's true for them, I go, oh, it's like, I'm not Moses, and I've been around this stuff a lot, so treating your doctor like a god should be the first, inquiry, right? So in order to simplify this in a way that most people can understand, I don't always know what do they call that? the languaging that is not complicated, you know? I know there's a term for it that's not coming to me, but there's a lot of lingo in it, right? And what I'm trying to invite is like, okay, just some horse sense. How long have you been on this medication? If you've been on it for a long time and it's been a rough, road, and you're like a bucking bronco like with this stuff, you better clean up your diet. You better start, having a bit of rhythm in your life of some sort before you even try this. Get stable first. Before you even start any type of weaning off of antipsychotic, you should be in a place where you're not still on the, yeehaw ride, right? Your family's, you got a safe place to be, and your crucible, your sacred space that you're trying to do this in is suitable, right? Then, if you were put on this medication and you've kind of missed a few doses and you seem to be okay, then you're in a different category than somebody that's like, holy run for your life, if you miss your medication. You have to weigh these things out. So figure out where you're at on the spectrum. The rabbits usually are not winning these races. Now, there are times where the turtle's not the right speed either, but when you're first going about, like, okay, I'm going to start this race, and you're in a place where you're stable, do an entry cut that's like almost guaranteed to not mess you up. So you just know what to expect, It's kind of like when you go to the store and you hit that watermelon, you tap it a little bit, not actually opening the watermelon, but you can kind of hear what's inside that, right? So you're doing a little tap to your own nervous system to see what it's going to do on lesser medication. You're at 300, you tried 275, everything was great. I didn't really feel anything. It's 10 days later, and you don't even know what happened, right? On the other side of things, if you had a lot of symptomatology around that, then, maybe either you weren't ready or whatever. But, do your entry cut slowly. If that felt okay, then maybe do that one more time. And just ease into it slowly. There's no real reason to hurt yourself in this process, You're not gonna generally make it worse by being cautious, okay? Especially with an antipsychotic withdrawal, almost all the time. When people screw up is they go too fast. It's not because they're going too slow coming off this medication. It's because they're like, oh, I feel good and I want to feel better, It's kind of like where we compared it to taking a cocaine or something. It's like, oh, I felt good at a little bit of cocaine. I want to feel great if I take a lot more, right? And then next thing you know, the person's drug-induced psychosis or crazy or drug addict or something. It's like more is not always better. And the turtles are the ones who hold the gold medals in this type of race. Okay? Next question. How fast can you taper off Seroquel? It doesn't matter. No, I'm kidding. The last question, obviously, was based upon how fast can you taper off Seroquel? It is really dependent upon you. A guideline is a guideline. And this is a really, 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 really rough brushstroke. But for every year you've been on the medication, it could take 1 month for you to come off of. Now, if you've been on medication for 1 year, you really are going to want to spend 2 to 3 months maybe getting off that one, right? See how the math just got screwed up? But for someone who's been on it for 10 years, they want to set the guideline that says it might take 10 months to come off that medication. So if you've been on medication for a year, I would not try to get off that medication in 4 weeks. I would go for at least 8 weeks, if not 12 weeks, of a very pragmatic approach to, I tried something and I saw how it worked and I stopped. I tried something, I saw it worked, It's kind of like, if you're tapering on top of being stable, it's kind of like stepping on one of those slippery slide things at the fair, where once you're on that slope, you're gonna keep going until you hit the bottom, You want to go down a level on the stairs and you stand there and you feel secure in how you're at, you feel okay, and then you go to the next step. That's how you taper. The taper is not meant to be like that. The taper is meant, as we see it, is meant to be like you go down and you stop here and you get your bearings again, and then you do another cut and then you get your bearings again. That's how you taper. And however fast it is for you is how fast it is for you. Okay? This concludes our video on Seroquel. Thank you very much, and do remember, don't change medications based upon what you've heard from us. Please consult your provider. We are not able to give you medical advice, obviously through a YouTube video. And this is meant to be for informational purposes only, that you can bring up with your provider when you're having a conversation with someone who's actually prescribing you or unprescribing you this medication. Thank you, and have a good day or evening.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. For information about Alternative to Med Center, give us a call at 888-984-9667.